Deep in the rainforests of Southeast Asia, there is an ant that, when threatened, tears itself apart. Not metaphorically. Not as a last desperate struggle. It does so deliberately, contracting its own muscles with such force that its body ruptures, spraying a toxic chemical weapon across everything within range. The explosion kills the ant instantly. That is the point. This is Colobopsis explodens. The exploding ant. It belongs to a group of species scattered across the tropical forests of Southeast Asia and South Asia, all sharing one extraordinary adaptation, the ability to sacrifice their own bodies as living grenades. Scientists call this behavior autophasis, from the Greek meaning self-sacrifice. But that clinical label does nothing to capture what is actually happening, a creature making, in the most literal sense possible, the ultimate sacrifice. To understand why, we need to start at the beginning. At the colony. An ant colony is not a collection of individuals in any meaningful human sense. It is closer to a single organism. The queen is the reproductive core. The workers are her extended body, foragers, nurses, soldiers, each performing a role so specialized that no single ant could survive alone for long. When a threat appears, the colony does not send its best and brightest. It sends those it can afford to lose. The workers that explode are minor workers. Small. Numerous. Reproductively sterile. In the arithmetic of natural selection, they have no direct genetic future. Their value to the colony is entirely in what they can do for it while they are alive. Or, as it turns out, in the precise moment they choose to die. When a minor worker of Colobopsis explodens encounters an enemy, an invading ant from a rival colony, a spider, a predatory insect, it does not run. It does not call for reinforcements. It clamps down with its mandibles and contracts its abdomen with extraordinary muscular force. The glands along the length of its body, enormously enlarged compared to other ant species, rupture outward. A pale yellow, viscous fluid sprays across the attacker in a fine toxic mist. The substance is a cocktail of acetates and other compounds, evolved over millions of years into something remarkably effective. It immobilizes. It poisons. In many cases, it kills. And it does all of this to multiple targets simultaneously, since the spray fans outward rather than hitting a single point. One ant's death can neutralize an entire raiding party. Researchers who have worked closely with these species describe the secretion as having an unusual smell, faintly spicy, almost pleasant by human standards. That detail sits at a strange angle to the violence of what produces it. What makes this behavior so striking is not just that it happens. It is that it is controlled. The ant chooses. Or something close to choice, a neural trigger, an evolved instinct so deeply written into the animal's biology that it fires at precisely the right moment. The ant does not explode in frustration. It does not explode by accident. It waits for contact with an enemy, orients itself for maximum coverage, and then acts. This precision matters enormously. An explosion that kills only the ant is a waste. An explosion that eliminates a dozen enemies and saves the larvae in the nest below, that is a different calculation entirely. The major workers, the larger caste within the colony, do not explode. They have a different role. They serve as living doors, using their broad, plug-shaped heads to block the entrances to the nest. While the minor workers sacrifice themselves in the open, the majors form a wall at the threshold. Together, the two strategies create a layered defense that is nearly impossible to breach without catastrophic cost. This division did not appear overnight. It is the product of tens of millions of years of refinement. Ants have existed since the Cretaceous period, over 100 million years ago, and in that time, evolution has produced more than 20,000 described species. The exploding ants represent one of its most extreme experiments, a lineage that looked at self-preservation and decided there were circumstances where self-destruction was more efficient. The species Colobopsis explodens was formally described only in 2018, following years of fieldwork in the rainforests of Borneo. The research team, led by biologists from the Natural History Museum Vienna, documented the behavior in careful detail, the trigger, the mechanics, the chemistry, the ecology. They named the species Explodens not for drama but for accuracy. It was the most honest name available. Borneo's lowland rainforests, where Colobopsis explodens lives, are among the most biodiverse environments on Earth. The canopy layer teems with ants of dozens of species, competing for territory, food, nesting sites. In this environment, aggression is constant and the cost of losing a skirmish can be the destruction of an entire colony. The pressure to evolve extreme defenses is not abstract. It is measured in dead queens and collapsed populations. Against that backdrop, autophasis becomes not bizarre but inevitable. Given enough time, enough pressure, enough variation, natural selection will find it. There is something else worth noting about these ants. The workers that explode are not coerced. There is no hierarchy forcing them into the role. They are not the weakest members of the colony, pushed to the front as expendable. They are simply doing what their biology was built to do, in the way that a bee stings or a skunk sprays, reflexively, completely, without hesitation. The difference is that the sting and the spray do not require the animal's death. Autophasis does. And yet the colony continues. The queen is safe. The larvae survive. The genetic material carried by every ant in that nest, material that will persist into the next generation and the one after, is protected. The worker that exploded shares roughly 3/4 of its genes with its sisters. In dying, it has preserved copies of itself in a form that can reproduce. This is not noble. It is not brave. It is mathematics. But it looks remarkably like courage. The deep strangeness of these animals is not that they explode. It is that an entire lineage evolved to make death useful. To treat the body not as something to be protected but as a resource to be deployed, carefully, at the right moment, in the right direction. Most animals flee when faced with annihilation. The exploding ant runs toward it. And perhaps the most unsettling fact of all, in the forests of Southeast Asia, across multiple species, in colonies that have never had contact with one another, this same solution appeared independently. More than once. Natural selection, working through different lineages, in different places, across different timescales, arrived at the same answer. When life faces a problem hard enough, it will invent the exploding ant. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, hit like and subscribe for more incredible facts.